So I was back at the conference for day 2, and same as day 1, I was catching people between sessions, asking them what they were taking away from the whole thing. Here's what I got. What is something that you're hearing vendors promising, especially when you're listening to talks that you're not seeing yet playing out in real life?
Oh, that's a spicy one. Gosh. You know what? Case studies. I think case studies are important because ultimately, there's just so much you can hear about in panels and things like that. And I kind of think that, as a former in-house GC, the general counsel myself, you need to really be able to project yourself into using a particular solution. And I think case studies is what's ultimately missing and what I would like to see more of.
What's the conversation you had in this event that is going to make you do things differently on Monday?
I think one of the conversations I've had with some of the AI providers about the tools they have and how they're used, I will take into my business and kind of feedback about how we can maybe improve our workflow. I think that's one of the things.
What's one thing that you heard here in this conference that's going to make you do things differently on Monday?
Maybe not on Monday, but definitely the next week. I will be having a meeting with the head of legal to discuss over a cup of coffee a sentence that I've heard today at one of the delegates, from one of the speakers actually. They said that we should think about how we would design our operations in the legal team if we were designing them today, not if we were basing on the assumptions from yesterday. The world has changed. Our circumstances have changed, and we need to think what it would be like designing the new operation system today, not basing on what we've had before.
What is something that vendors keep promising that you're not really playing out at scale in real life?
Well, they promise change, and I think one thing that technology vendors typically underinvest in is change management for the customer. So they'll normally find a buyer that understands the software and the solution that they're buying, but then they need to go through that buyer into the rest of the organization. And so I think increasingly, as these companies mature, they understand that that's actually the next barrier. It's not good enough to have a product that works in theory. They've then got to work out how to get that product established in customer businesses. So that's probably something they're investing in next.
So what is something that you hear in this conference that's meaningfully different than the conferences last year?
I think it's really interesting how people are now accepting certain limitations of large language models. Like previously we'd hear a lot of feedback like how can you trust systems that provide hallucinations and they're not always correct. And now the technology is so ubiquitous that people are like, how do we build frameworks and processes around making sure those hallucinations get caught? We see the value they provide and the limitations they have, but we need to kind of implement that anyway. And that's a huge change from last year where there was still a lot of fear around that.
So you work in a law firm, but you decided to come on an in-house day. Why is that?
So we've been to some other events where we were looking more specifically at solutions for ourselves. But increasingly we do see the kind of client collaboration piece more and more important. And we do see more and more clients adopting or at least considering adopting many of the legal tech solutions. And so it is valuable for me and the firm to look at legal technology from the client perspective as well, so we can better figure out our own positioning, our own value, and pretty much how we collaborate with clients.
What's something you heard here in the past 24 hours that makes you rethink things around AI, if anything?
I think one of the key things that I've heard is how individuals are pivoting to new roles, seeing AI as an opportunity to expand their portfolio of careers and not seeing it as a limiting factor, but as a factor to actually broaden their skill set and offering as individuals to an organisation and also to nourish their own career.
What's the one thing in your day-to-day work that you wish AI would be able to handle, but it doesn't yet?
I wish AI would be able to give me answers without hallucination and with giving proper sources. It doesn't do it yet, although it tries. It's accurate for 80-90% of cases, but this 10 times out of 100, I cannot allow to go by themselves. So I need to check it very, very carefully. And because it's getting more and more accurate, I am becoming more and more, so to say, lazy. And this creates a risk.
So what is it about this conference that you like more than the others?
Well, someone from my business was speaking today, which was really nice. So yeah, that was good to hear her. But in general, I think it's been quite interactive. I think that's nice to have that bingo part of it, which was really fun. That made me go around to everyone. I think sometimes you might be a bit shy to approach people, but when you've got a good incentive, it does make you just think, do you know what, I'm just going to go have a chat. And then it really allowed me to see every single provider here and actually get an idea of what they do, which is going to be useful going back to my business and just maybe relaying what I think, what ones I think would be most useful for how we do our business.
Is there anything that you've heard on this conference, maybe at a talk or in a conversation, that is making you rethink some things around AI in legal space?
Yes, I had a quite brilliant conversation with one of the in-house leader, a director for quite a big multinational. It's essentially the kind of company that are kind of on par with our clients, many of our big clients. And one thing he did say was they are quite looking forward to law firms providing services not as kind of billable human hours, but more like handing them a kind of a digital agent asset. So essentially the law firm builds an AI bot, a chatbot or an agent that works 24/7 for the client. And the client is charged on potentially on a usage basis or a subscription fee, a license fee, etc., rather than billable hours. So that's actually something quite interesting. And basically legal service as software, which is something that really struck me as it's quite an interesting idea to explore and look at down the road.
I think what they didn't really discuss yesterday was the business model implications of technology on lawyer roles. And I don't think those business model implications are as profound as some people think they might be or worry, but it's something that law firms are not focused on in their day jobs. Law firms don't typically focus on business model.
Do you think that's particularly the change management aspect of the innovation? Do you think that's particularly a lawyer's problem? Or is it across the board type of problem?
It's definitely across the board. There are lots of people in law firms who are quite good at solving that problem of what needs to change and how. Those people are typically not lawyers. And so, or they were lawyers and they are no longer lawyers. The difficulty of being a lawyer, certainly in private practice, is you're either on matter and you're really busy delivering to your client's timetable and your client's requirements, which is a complex and time-bound job, or you're not on a matter and you're freaking out because you're not busy and so you're trying to get work. So divorcing those two elements from the space you need to give yourself to think about how you change is really hard.
So if you have 10 cases out of 100 cases that you can't trust, does that mean that you have to go and check every single case? And if that is so, does it actually save time for you?
It does save the time. Yes, it is so, and I think it will be so, because we as lawyers, we have this obligation to sign off anything we do. If it's a junior lawyer who prepared the research, if it's the AI lawyer who prepared the research, we need to check it, we need to make sure, and we need to see it just as we have done it ourselves. So yeah, it does save us time, and I think there is no solution to the problem, that we need to check it ourselves.
What's one good thing about this conference that you're not getting anywhere else?
I think one of the great things has been the diversity of professionals who are now affiliated with legal services. So there are not many other industry events, I don't think, where you see so much presence from the likes of legal engineers, and on top of that, who actually already have legal qualifications. They've already come from stellar legal careers who have then pivoted into legal engineering.
Is there anything that you've heard at this conference that's going to make you do things differently or think differently about things?
Yeah, I think from a vendor side, it's been really interesting hearing the in-house lawyers talk about how they're changing their relationship with counsel. And the way we as vendors have often talked to them has been like, it'll make the work easier. But it seems now they're feeling empowered to go to their outside counsel, where they're external lawyers, and say, I want to hear about value. So rather than it being simply like, we need your expertise and we need the kind of work that you can provide that we can't do, it's now about, I need to go to my CFO, my board, and show that you are providing value. And I'm hopeful that I'm going to take that away and change the way I have conversations, both with in-house lawyers and also when we talk to private practice lawyers, that like, the world is changing and you need to change the framework about how you value yourself to be value-based and not time-based.
That's what I got for you. If you were there and I missed you, see you at the next one.